Desert dust stuck to every hinge in the rental Jeep, and that was before the engines fired for the annual Lone Basin Overland Rally. 4 days of GPS checkpoints, no paved roads, and bragging rights measured in dents. I'd been hired by the event insurance company as a dashcam reviewer. My job sounded thrilling until I learned it meant sitting in a motel room afterward scrubbing through endless GoPro footage for liability incidents. Still, the rally itself was worth the heat. 37 rigs, everything from vintage Land Cruisers to fresh-off-the-lot Broncos, lined up on the cracked clay lakebed at dawn. I rode shotgun with the only all-Navajo team, driver Lenora Yazzie and her younger brother Cody. Their late 90s white 4Runner looked plain next to neon-wrapped sponsor rigs, but every panel had a desert scratch earned the old-fashioned way. Lenora greeted me with a thermos of bitter coffee. "You're the cam guy? Brian Kavanaugh." "Insurance," I said, holding up the clipboard. Cody grinned. "Dashcam priest, here to bless our sins." We mounted 3 cameras, windshield, grill, and rear quarter. GPS trackers beeped green. Rally control blared a horn and engines rolled into the canyon maze like an armored centipede. The route's first leg skirted the north rim of the Ventana Badlands, a sandstone labyrinth the local dine called Say Da Stone's Float. February rain had carved new ruts, our tires sprayed rooster tails of dust. When the convoy funneled into a narrow wash, rock ledges forced single-file crawling. I used the lull to check the dash screen, a timecode stamped clean. At mile 18, checkpoints split teams across different canyons. Lenora chose the Say Post Spur, a less-traveled cut promise to shave 30 minutes. We left the safe hum of other engines and dropped into lonely country where sandstone rose in leaning fins, casting narrow ribbons of shade. Cody cranked down the window. "Smell that?" The air carried a musky wet hide odor like coyote pelt left in sun. Lenora flicked the vent closed. Storm must have unearthed a dead cow. We pressed on. The wash curved, revealing an abandoned mining shack leaning against a butte, corrugated tin, one soot-black chimney. The place wasn't on any topo map I'd scanned. Lenora slowed. Engine heat ticked. Something about the shack's door bothered me. The planks bowed outward as if something inside had pushed endlessly but never stepped out. Cody lifted binoculars. "Window movement, see that?" He handed them to me. Through cracked glass, I spotted a face too low for an adult, narrow jaw, chalk-white skin contrasting beet red earth. Eyes hollows, no reflection. The shape ducked. "Kid?" I asked. "No kids out here," Lenora said. She shoved the gear lever. Not stopping. I logged the waypoint to report. The Jeep crawled past. The shack vanished beyond the ridge, but an itch crawled between my shoulders. 10 miles later, the wash broadened to pale dunes. Lenora gunned it across sand fans. The 4Runner bounced like a tossed boat. Dashcam recorded sunflower and grit. We made checkpoint 2 with 20 minutes gained. Lenora high-fived Cody. We were in line for a day 1 lead. Night camp sat in a bowl of slick rock under cliffs that glowed rust. Teams circled rigs like wagons, tarps stretched as windbreaks. Propane stoves hissed. I downloaded footage to a rugged drive, tagged checkpoints, all normal. The mining shack face didn't appear. The camera angle had missed it. After chili and cheap beer, Lenora threaded camp gossip. The lead-sponsored truck, a bright yellow Tacoma, never reached checkpoint 2. Satellite pings placed it idling for an hour, then signal vanished. Search drones would launch at dawn. Long nights were part of rally lore. Wind funneled through the bowl, rattling aluminum awnings. Around midnight, I gave up pretending to sleep and padded to our rig to offload battery packs. I flipped the tailgate table. It squealed loud enough to wake the canyon. Something answered, a high laugh only a parched throat could make. Not close, not distant, weirdly equal in every direction, as if rocks themselves chuckled. I spun a full circumference. Campfires burned low, silhouettes unmoving. The laugh came again, shorter, teasing. Cody unzipped his tent and peered out. "You hear that?" Probably another team messing around. A flashlight beam from the far end of camp swept the ridge top. Nothing. Wind slapped tarps. The laugh didn't repeat. Next morning, second leg. Ram Gulch, a slot barely wide enough for side mirrors. Rally control required single vehicle entry every 5 minutes. We queued behind a lime green Defender. His driver poked head out. Watched the limestone pinch on passenger side. Already scratched my door. Our turn. Lenora idled into the slot. Rock walls rose like chest-high jaws. At the tightest point, Gouges crisscrossed stone. Rigs ahead had scraped metal. Dust hung suspended. The dashcam view narrowed to a tunnel. Halfway, Cody swore, "Audio, hear that?" I killed the stereo. Through engine idle, a mimic of our motor chuffed behind us, matched RPM for RPM. Lenora checked mirror, empty dark slot. She braked. The echo braked an instant later like a copy with lag. She revved hard. Copy revved. My skin prickled. The mimic's timing tightened as if learning. "Punch it," I said. Lenora dropped to first. The Forerunner lunged, mirrors missing sandstone by inches. Copy engine roar filled the dash speakers. I glanced at the data overlay, audio levels spiked equal front and rear, no directional origin. At last a shaft of light ahead signaled exit. Tires shot onto open slick rock. Lenora swerved aside, expecting a following rig. Nothing emerged. Cody leaned out the window. Slot mouth remained empty. Yet for 3 seconds, engine noise idled behind us, then cut mid-throttle. Silence weighed like a lid. Lenora blinked sweat out of her eyes. "We're not repeating that canyon," she said. Checkpoint 3 Marshall noted our shaken faces. I asked if any team had entered Ram Gulch after us. He tapped the roster. "Green Defender still inside when you went. No one due behind you for 10 minutes. The Defender rolled in 20 minutes later, driver pale." He claimed our Forerunner stopped suddenly inside, blocking his path, but we never saw him. Lenora whispered, "Skinwalker." Cody dismissed it, but he loaded a flare pistol into the door pocket. The long plateau section allowed 50 miles per hour sprints. Sandstorms in distance smeared the horizon. The mining shack location lay northeast, visible as a dark blot. As we passed, the dashcam auto-tagged motion. A figure standing on the shack roof, arms too long, head swiveling like a searching owl. The shack was 10 miles off route. The auto-tag didn't save to onboard review. I only saw a blue flash on the HUD before it cleared. Rally Night 2, Salt Pan Camp. Prickly pear flats, no cliffs, wind calm. As teams trickled in, murmurs spread. Yellow Tacoma still missing. 2 dirt bikes turned back after hearing voices imitate engine knock inside their helmets. I uploaded the day's footage under an awning-lit warm LED. Playback flagged a glitch at 3:14. 22 raw timestamp. The grill cam showed the shack again. Impossible, we'd been 50 miles away. Frame 1, moonlit shack, same Tulo face in the window. Frame 2, dashcam feed resumed normal road. Metadata listed GPS coordinate as null. I isolated the frame. Pixels around the shack edge bled upward like heat distortion, except temperature outside never exceeded 90. I called Lenora and Cody over. Lenora frowned. "That's the shack from yesterday." "GPS lost in Slot Canyon. Maybe overlay bug," Cody offered, but he didn't sound convinced. At 2:20 a.m., someone screamed outside camp. Flashlights slashed the dark. The scream turned into a laugh, familiar high scratch. A Green Defender's passenger stumbled into light, hands over ears, babbling that a voice spoke through his CB repeating, "Unhuman, unhuman," until static burst his speaker. His face bled from a gash. He claimed the rig's passenger window shattered without impact. Morning meeting. Rally control suspended the timed contest. Safety sweep teams would escort convoys to the finish. We had 30 miles left, open desert, no canyons. Lenora voted to continue. Her expression said she wanted distance from whatever mimicked us. Control allowed self-evac with satellite check-ins every 30 minutes. We left before dawn. Pink glow outlined volcanic knolls. Dashcam battery icons green. 15 minutes in, the windshield camera glitched, picture inverted, color channels separated. I popped the glove box, swapped SD cards. Feed stabilized. Open flats blurred by. My tablet beeped. A fresh file auto-uploaded from the dashcam's emergency buffer tagged Unhuman. I tapped play. Video began with coyote brown dirt, angle skewed as if camera lay on its side. The shack door swung outward in slow creaks. A figure crawled out. Skin tight as rawhide, joints reversed, knees bending forward. It raised a hand, palm split into 3 long claws. Audio carried our driver's seat conversation from minutes ago, but warped, vowels stretched. Cody glimpsed the tablet. "When did we record that?" "We didn't," I said. Lenora stared at the road yet drifted. The steering wheel shook. Tires dipped into a rut. jolting me forward. She overcorrected. Road dust hissed along the panels. In the side mirror, a plume followed. Something running on all fours inside the dust cloud. Matching speed at 40 mph. Lenora punched throttle. Engine moaned. The shape accelerated effortlessly, keeping just beyond dust threshold. Sun glare flashed silver in its eye pits. "Get the flare," she snapped. Cody fumbled open the pistol. I leaned out window, snapped a still on my phone, shutter lag blotted the shape. Cody fired behind. Red magnesium arced like a low meteor. The dust plume dispersed, the shape vanished. Heat shimmer lingered. Our satellite ping beeped deadline check-in. Lenora gave coordinates, control responded with static-laced copy. Signal dropped. Dashboard compass spun, then reset. We cleared the flats into petrified log fields, colorful fossil trunks like scattered bones. The map showed an abandoned way station ahead, last landmark before finish. We approached, building roof collapsed, a scale platform tilting. The wayshed door, skewed on hinge, reminded me of the shack's bowing planks. Dashcam overlay turned grayscale. A banner of text scrolled bottom, "Unhuman, unhuman, unhuman." Code unknown to the firmware. Wind died, engine idle sounded too loud. Lenora stopped 50 yards short. "We finish on foot?" she asked. Cody loaded a second flare. We stepped out. Sun overhead made shadows razor sharp. The wayshed door creaked, swinging though windless. From inside, our own voices argued, yesterday's slot canyon panic looped. We backed up. The scale groaned, weight registered though nothing stood on it. Numbers ticked upward, 300 pounds, 400, 600, then displayed. Gravel behind us shifted. The shack figure now strode upright in daylight. Skin parchment white, eyes holes, long limbs bending wrong. It stopped at the scale, stepped onto platform. Weight didn't change. Numbers stayed dash marks. It spoke with Lenora's accent, "Unhuman." Then my voice, "Unhuman." Then Cody's laugh, but drawn into vowel soup. Cody fired. Flare hissed across the scale. The being fractured like shattered clay. Shards spinning midair before liquefying into dust that smoked black. Wind returned, blowing ash into petrified logs, grains disappeared between cracks. Dashcam overlay cleared, text gone, color restored. My phone notification chimed, autosync dash file deleted itself. Memory card reindexed, skipping the corrupted segment. Lenora exhaled like surfacing from deep water. We finish. No stops. We rolled the final mile to finish arch where medics checked sunstressed drivers. Our forerunner crossed third overall. Officials waved congratulations, unaware of any horror. Back at Rally HQ, I submitted footage. The corrupted shack clip displayed placeholder frames. Insurance database flagged them unhuman and locked editing. Administrators said the code meant proprietary compression glitch. They archived it. That night, alone in the motel, I opened the grill cam backup card. Only one video remained, 15 seconds. It showed the way station scale under a starry sky. No trucks, no figures, until shadows lengthened toward the camera. The final second zoomed into static, then a whispered, "Unhuman." I deleted the clip, but the disk space never freed. Some weightless footprint stayed. 2 weeks later, the insurance firm closed my contract. They shipped the Rally hard drives to a warehouse for compliance. I never saw Lenora or Cody again, but a padded envelope arrived with no return address. Inside, a single SD card and a note. If you still hear it in engine noise, don't listen. Some echoes want to become the driver. I keep the card locked in a fireproof box. On bad nights, when semi-trucks pass my apartment and their downshifts vibrate the windows, I swear I catch a lagging roar mimicking the engine 2 seconds late. I close my laptop and remind myself dash cams don't lie, but sometimes the desert edits the footage for its own archives, stamping the final cut with one simple label, "Unhuman."
The gravel bikes rattled onto the abandoned quarry floor just after twilight. Tires flicking shards of slate that rang like marbles against the rust-orange loader bucket, left to fossilize beside the pit. We had pedaled 26 miles of ranch roads to camp here. 5 friends escaping Tucson heat for one night under a sky so polished it felt rehearsed. There was Danny with the astrophotography app, Jules the micro-influencer always filming, Mikey the mechanic who could tune a derailleur by feel, Artie the geology grad lost inside Rockhammer dreams, and me, Cal, forever volunteered as fire starter and reluctant narrator. The gravel pit spread 200 yards across, a limestone bowl scooped out decades earlier. A single ramp, steep, switchbacked, corkscrewed down to the floor. It was our trail in, the only trail out, and on GPS, it looked like an umbilical cord that had been cut. Perfect for privacy, perfect for spooky drinking stories. Jules unpacked her GoPro, intent on capturing desert s'mores content. She had ring lights, lav mics, sponsorship stickers nobody else asked for. Mikey unrolled a waxed canvas tool mat bulging with wrenches and spoke to our bikes like they were pets. Artie scrambled up the rim, tapping rock faces, sniffing for calcite. Danny lifted her phone, star map app glowing cobalt against gathering dusk, and tried to find Venus before the horizon swallowed it. I shoved short juniper logs into the loader bucket. Flint sparked the smallest twig, coaxed the pile until flames painted the pit walls orange. With the sun gone, limestone bloomed heat back at us, and the quarry became a kiln. We cracked IPAs, traded stories that blurred into headlamp halos. Mikey described rebuilding a trail bike for a pro racer. Danny teased Jules about the time she mistook a javelina for a wild dog and tried to give it trail mix. When conversation cooled, Danny leaned forward, elbows on knees. "All right, Cal, campfire rule, local legend or no more beer." I fed the flames and laid out the only legend I half remembered from a rest area pamphlet. Skinwalkers. Shapeshifters who wore animal hides, stole voices, lured travelers away from safe paths. My telling felt rerun. But the quarry walls threw my words back deeper, as if another throat recited them a half-second later. No one laughed when I finished. Somewhere high on the rim, an owl called, a single descending note that should have echoed but didn't. Sound seemed to stall in midair, like the limestone absorbed it. Mikey wandered to refill beers and came back holding a fragment of hoofprint pressed into powdery dust. Not quite deer, not quite goat. "Wrong shape for local critters," he whispered, and laid it by the fire as if handing evidence to a court. Donnie set up her tripod for a long star trail exposure. Every 30 seconds, she clicked the shutter and muttered that the sky looked off-kilter, constellations minutely warped, as though someone had nudged the dome. Even Artie, forever rational, admitted the barometer on his watch had dipped 5 millibars in 10 minutes. No storm in sight. The pit felt like a room where the furniture had been moved a fraction of an inch, and only the subconscious noticed. To shake the unease, Jules suggested a slow spin around the bowl to collect firewood. We fanned out in flashlight cones, staying within shouting distance. I kept catching peripheral movement, my own beam reflecting off shards of shale. But twice I saw a second beam mimic mine, tracing the same arc half a heartbeat later, vanishing when I tried to pin it. Jules returned empty-handed, said her footfalls kept doubling. She'd step once, echo twice. We pretended bravado, piled a few scrub branches on the blaze, and laughed too loudly for the size of the joke. Right before the real terror began, I glanced at the loader bucket and noticed new scratches. 5 vertical lines, fresh steel gleaming under rust. They hadn't been there when we lit the fire. I ran a finger over the grooves. Flecks of iron curled away warm, as if the cuts had body heat. I told myself some past vandal had marked the metal, yet the air smelled newly carved, like hot pennies in ozone. I backed to the circle just as loose gravel clicked near the ramp. One rock tumbling, then another. Loose gravel clicked near the ramp, one rock tumbling, then another. 5 headlamps swung up, nothing. Mikey said javelina, but his voice leaned toward doubt. The clicking returned, matching heartbeats. Then it stopped, as if the listener enjoyed suspense. Jules lifted the GoPro's thermal lens. Its postage stamp screen showed 5 orange blobs, us, and a 6th, ghost pale smear halfway up the ramp. She tapped the screen to record. Danny counted aloud. 5 voices answered, but 6 shadows danced on limestone. The extra silhouette hunched, limbs jointed wrong like a deer drawn by a child. Mikey brandished his multi-tool, the dull blade glinting more hope than threat. "Whoever's up there, campsite's full," he called. The quarry parroted him back, syllables tar slow, woe vers, upith iere, campsites, fu hull. Gooseflesh climbed my scalp. Danny kicked dirt on a log, shrinking the fire's glow. Shadow number 6 stretched, neck elongating until its head smeared up the rim like ink dragged by wind. Gravel ticked retreat, click, click, then silence dropped heavy as quarry dust. We dragged bikes inward, forming a half-circle barrier. Jules whispered that her GoPro, fresh battery, had died. She clicked, nothing. Wind tunneled through unseen fissures. From a fault in limestone, Danny's laugh bubbled. Perfect copy. Yet Danny herself pressed lips tight. The fake laugh dissolved into a wet chewing noise, like dogs tearing rawhide. Artie hefted his rock hammer. "It's under the floor," he murmured. He swept light down a fissure. Empty darkness that swallowed lumens whole. Someone suggested escaping up the ramp, but the shadow of that throat tightened courage out of us. We voted, without words, to keep the fire alive. Sparks coiled skyward, struck an overhang, then drifted sideways. No updraft moves embers like that. One ember floated toward Jules's dead GoPro, hovered above the lens, and winked out. The camera blinked awake. Screen pure white, text scrolling. 6 voices for 6 shadows, complete. Jules flung the camera into the loader bucket. Its lens kept staring at us, recording. Midnight surrendered to 2 a.m. Pebbles periodically rained from the ramp, as though lifted and dropped by an unseen hand. Mikey finally whispered, "Engines, hear them?" A convoy hum circled the rim, Dopplering but never approaching. The rev counted pistons wrong. An 8-cylinder stuttered like a sick diesel, doubled and detuned. I pictured quarry loaders abandoned decades ago, their ghosts turning keys in the dark. Artie's shadow lifted its hammer while his real hand stayed at his sides. Phantom metal struck phantom stone. Sparks leapt silently, and tiny slate chips rained into our firelight. The shadow then swung the hammer into its own shadow fist. Real pebbles fell at Artie's boots. A line of fresh tally marks gouged into limestone beside him. 5 strokes, then a 6th unfinished. Jules began sobbing softly. Donnie wrapped an arm around her, breathing fast. We needed distance, any distance. The only other exit was a drainage culvert Artie remembered from an old USGS map. A storm pipe bored through the ridge. We grabbed bikes by handlebars, half pushed, half dragged across the bowl, fire behind us pulsing like a warning beacon. As we ran, the ramp roared, stones avalanching as though something huge barreled down. Moon shadows in the pit twisted into elongated fingers. We didn't look back. The culvert mouth crouched 4 feet tall, smelling like rust and cold water. Inside, headlamps revealed fingertip carvings, tally marks grouped in 5s, hundreds of groups stretching down the wall like ledger entries. The newest lines bled white dust. Why keep count? Mikey whispered. No one answered. A wet sniff echoed behind. The exhale repeated Mikey's earlier joke about demon translators, rearranged like magnetic poetry. Demon returned star order. We crawled deeper, knees soaking in frigid runoff. The tunnel twisted, rose, then offered moonlight through a slit exit. But a chain-link fence sagged inward, barbs curled like claws. We bent steel, scraping skin, and tumbled into silver-lit desert scrub. 50 yards on, we collapsed, lungs heaving. Back in the pit, our abandoned fire spiked, a pillar of orange taller than the loader arm, illuminating 6 shadows circling clockwise. One raised arms twice a human span, the others followed in slow choreography. Fire snuffed to red motes, and the 6th shadow lingered an extra heartbeat before folding into limestone. We chose open desert over the safety of our bikes, hiking cross-country until dawn bruised the horizon pale red. At a ranch road, we flagged an old pickup. The driver eyed torn shirts and bare hands, asked where our cycles were. Our silence answered him. Authorities found the camp, tents shredded, bikes folded like thin tin, loader bucket empty. Jules's camera still recorded, battery inexplicably full. Audio analysts isolated layered voices, chanting Navajo blessings backward, spliced with our laughter. Tallies in the culvert matched the quarry's operating years. 55 sets of 5, plus a 6th set newly scratched. Mikey sold his bike. Donnie and Jules moved north. Artie defected to lab research. I keep our single surviving SD card in a freezer, double-bagged, inside an old coffee tin. Some nights, monsoon thunder rattles my windows and I smell juniper smoke. I swear an unseen ramp descends behind my bedroom wall, a throat waiting for footsteps. In those moments, I hear my own voice pleading for another story, another tally mark, one more shadow to keep the count even. US 191 slices the Navajo Nation like a dark zipper. 2 thin lanes stitched between pale sandstone and open sky. 59 miles south of the Utah line, the road kinks west for no obvious reason, as if the highway planners swerved to avoid something they couldn't admit existed. On the inside of that dogleg squats a ruin locals call Hostine Red's trading post. Mud brick walls blown open like a busted rib cage, cedar roof gone except for a few splinters that creak in the wind. I first saw the place on a July afternoon when heat shimmer made the mesas look half melted. The sign, Redbird Trading, Dry Goods, Ice, still stood, letters bleached to bone. 3 weathered gas pumps huddled in front. Glass bowls long since shot out by target-hungry teenagers. I pulled over for pictures. Highway nostalgia feeds my travel blog. The main building looked fragile, ready to dissolve under one wrong footstep. So I stayed outside. But the ruin gnawed at me for months, a splinter in thought. Eventually, curiosity beat common sense. Tonight, October 16th, 11:07 p.m. I park on the narrow shoulder. My hatch clicks open. Camera bag, LED lantern, recorder, extra batteries. No moon, only a sky rivered with stars and a north wind smelling of cold sage. The ruin crouches 20 yards off the asphalt, blacker than the night behind it. The little voice that keeps humans alive whispers, "Come back at dawn." I ignore it. Why bother with daylight? Because in daylight, the dust inside an abandoned building looks innocent. Just powdered sandstone piled by wind. At night, it behaves like blank paper waiting for a story to write itself. And the story I've chased all autumn is a rumor that the Post still receives customers. Disembodied footsteps pacing the main aisle. Muffled conversation in a language nobody records anymore. And once, so legend claims, the rasp of a pump handle dispensing gasoline into an invisible tank. A mile behind me, my rental's hazard lights flash. No other traffic. I cross the ditch, boots crunching coyote gourds. Wind shoves grit into my teeth. Up close, the adobe walls exhale chill like something has been refrigerating the building from the inside. I raise the lantern. The doorway frames total darkness. No graffiti, no beer cans. Odd for a ruin this close to the road. My recorder clicks on. Digital time code rolls. 23113. I narrate for the blog. Front door lintel cracked but stable. Smells like dust and I sniff. Faint cedar smoke? A campfire somewhere far off? Hard to tell. Inside, the floor plan reveals itself in one sweep of light. Open room, 5 sagging shelves center, counter at the rear, doorway into what was once the proprietor's living quarters. The floor is hard-packed earth topped with an undisturbed crust of powdery dust, half an inch deep. My own tracks ridge behind me. The hush feels padded, thick. I kill the lantern. In darkness, the wind outside muffles. Heartbeat doubles. I wait, breathing slow. Nothing. I relight. I circle the nearest shelf. Glass medicine bottles still stand in neat formation, labels unreadable. A stub of pencil lies on the counter beside a ledger, pages fused by time. I crack the cover. Brittle paper sighs, but doesn't disintegrate. The last entry glows under lantern beam, April 18th, 1957. 10-cent bread, 30-cent coffee, 18-gallon petrol, sold to self. Sold to self. I photograph the page. Lantern sputters. Batteries are new. I shake it. Light steadies. From the back room comes a sound like corn kernels popping. Tap, tap, tap. I swing the beam. Doorway empty. Another tap. Maybe rodents chewing plaster. I step behind the counter. A narrow hall leads to the living quarters. On the left, what was once a kitchen. Rusted stove, enamel chipped to reveal iron ribs. On the right, a storage closet. The door stands ajar 4 inches. I nudge it wider. Lantern light slides across a wall scribbled head to toe with chalk tally marks grouped in 5s. Hundreds, maybe thousands. On the floor below them, a small rectangle of undisturbed dust. Someone, something, has removed an object recently. No footprints, though. The popping returns, now unmistakably footsteps on packed earth. Not steady. They advance, pause, retreat. Floorboards, but the building has no boards. My lantern battery quits, plunging me into black. Quickly, I thumb my headlamp. Bright white stabs the aisle. Dust motes wheel like galaxies. What I see next electrifies my spine. Fresh footprints appear in the dust, 5 feet beyond my earlier tracks. Depressions crisp, boot-shaped, pointing toward the counter. They did not exist seconds ago. No sound accompanies them now, yet the prints deepen as if invisible weight settles. One print, then another ahead of it. I whisper to the recorder. New footfalls manifesting. No visible source. Breath clouds the beam, even though outside temperature hovers mid-40s. I back toward the door, headlamp fixed on the phenomenon. Prints continue, pacing to the ledger, stopping exactly where a clerk would stand. A sigh rustles the paper, fluttering the ledger closed. My own track line to the door remains the only exit. The newcomer's prints turn, face me, pause. Unease swells, pressure behind eardrums. Recorder's red LED blinks faster. Buffer peaking? I lower gain. A voice, dry as sifting soil, trickles from the doorway I had left. Plenty bread. 30 cents coffee. The timbre is genderless, syllables clipped like cash register dings. I flick my beam that direction, nothing but tallies on wall. Dust rises in lazy swirls. I pivot back. New prints sprint toward me. Instinct tears me sideways. My shoulder clips a shelf, bottles shattering. Glass chimes scatter, then hush. The prints stop inches from mine. My nose fills with cedar smoke. Sharp, not campfire, but sweat house incense. Voice again, nearer by my ear. 18-gallon petrol. Sold to self. Words press like warm breath. I stumble, nearly drop the recorder. Footprints reverse, track to the center aisle, vanish under the second shelf. Dust eddies, settles. I need outside air. I backpedal to the doorway, fighting urge to run. The plastic lens of my headlamp fogs from inside. I wipe it. When the beam clears, something stands in the ditch beyond the threshold. A silhouette shaped like a man in a duster coat, but moonlight slides through him. The form flickers, interlaced lines like CRT scan bars. Not a solid body, an old television image projected into thin air. His head tilts, pupils glow amber, outline warps with static. He lifts one hand, fingers curve in, come back. The gesture glitches, frame skipping, my knees lock. If I step forward, he blocks exit. If I retreat, the ledger ghost might follow. I choose sideways, edge along wall toward a broken window. The static man stays outside the doorway, scanning. Glass crunches under my boot. From the ledger room, a sound like a chair dragging. Long rasp. My heart pumps noise into ears. I yank my arm through the window frame, brush shards, climb out. Cold air slices relief across sweat-soaked shirt. I hit the ground running, cross ditch, fumble keys. Inside my car, the hazard lights still blink. I start engine, swing headlights on the ruin. The silhouette remains in the doorway, static fuzz shimmering. But now, a second form appears behind him. Shorter, perhaps a child, flickering the same. Headlights dim. Battery drain? No. Voltage gauge healthy. The lights don't fade. Something dims them. A wave of darkness rolls from the trading post, swallowing beams, asphalt, and my hood. I slam reverse. Tires spit gravel, but the car jerks. Stalled? Number frozen in gear, though engine revs. In the headlights' chokehold darkness, the flicker forms step onto the road. Each footfall raises dust clouds that rise, swivel, and collapse. Radio snaps on full volume, dial pointer jittering across dead stations. Voices tumble like laundry. Navajo, English, Spanish. A 1930s croon. Each snippet ends with cash register ding. I slap the power button. Nothing. Pull fuse. Still spewing. In the windshield reflection, I see movement behind me. Dust footprints crawl across the trunk toward the driver door. They indent metal like soft clay, each print smoking. I jam door lock. Plastic sizzles, handle boils hot. Desperation, I pop hood, kill battery cable. Lights die, dash black, radio silent. Footprints halt. The figures in the road dim, dissolve, sucked back into trading post with an audible gasp, like wind leaving a cave. Engine now dead. I sit until breathing slows. 12:49 a.m. Recorder still rolls. I note every detail. Wind picks up, disperses dust. When I dare exit, trading post stands blank, doorway empty. Ledger page flutters once, then rips free, riding wind toward the ditch. It lands face up. Sold to self repeated until margin. I don't retrieve it, I walk the shoulder a mile until cell signal bars reappear and call a tow. While waiting, I scroll county records. Redbird Trading burned mid-June 1957. Owner, Caleb Redbird. Filed last store ledger entry the night before, then vanished. Investigators found tracks in dust. Boot prints pacing the counter, but none entering or leaving. When wrecker arrives, driver asks if I saw the neon sign further north. Apparently it flickered on just past midnight. There is no sign. Tow lights paint the ruin as we pull away. In their glow, the dust on the trading post floor stirs, reorganizes. Two sets of footprints, side by side, walk the aisle toward the counter, then stop, waiting for the next customer. The vacancy sign at the Roadrunner Lodge flickered like a broken eyelid the night I rolled into Kayenta. 23 straight hours on Highway 160 had pried open a hairline crack of exhaustion behind my eyes, and the glowing letters, VACY, felt like a private dare to finish the word before my forehead met the steering wheel. I parked under a buzzing sodium lamp, cut the engine, and sat for a minute, watching blowing sand skate across the asphalt. April wind here smells of rust, sage, and something older, like water that evaporated before anyone could drink it. At reception, a sleepy teenager slid me a key fob attached to a bent turquoise feather charm. Room 27, second floor, end of the row. Non-smoking, ma'am. Adjoining doors locked from both sides. You'll have the wall to yourself. The promise of solitude sounded perfect. I was a geologic survey contractor, 6 days behind schedule, carrying a laptop full of draft maps and an ulcer that burped coffee acid whenever deadlines stacked. All I wanted was 8 hours of blackout sleep, then Monument Valley at sunrise. Room 27 greeted me with threadbare carpet, a whooping swamp cooler, and that universal roadside motel fragrance of lemon disinfectant, fighting lifetime cigarette ghosts. The adjoining door sat just left of the dresser, one of those flimsy accordion things framed by beaten-up molding. Someone had wedged a wobbly chair against it for good measure. I showered, wolfed vending machine peanut butter crackers, set the alarm for 5 a.m., and killed the lights. Wind worried the eaves. The cooler coughed. Bed springs pitched a lullaby of complaint every time I shifted. Eventually, I drifted. Knock. Not on the main door. The hollow plastic drum pop came from the thin wall 2 feet behind my pillow. I woke mid-dream, heart sprinting. The room's reed-thin nightlight cast enough glow to show the adjoining door unmoved, chair still braced. A second knock. 3 short taps, knuckles, not woodpecker. Almost polite. Probably the teen clerk after hours, I rationalized. Maybe room 26 got double booked and someone confused doors? I cleared my throat. No vacancy, I called, aiming for humor. Silence. I rolled over. Knock, knock, same rhythm. Then a pause, like the visitor was thinking, followed by 2 more taps, slower, as if tapping out a question mark. I sat up. Front desk closed. Come back tomorrow. No answer. I stared at the flimsy barrier. The chair back wiggled as though a draft had found it, yet the swamp cooler had cycled off during sleep. The air sat still as texture paint. My phone read 1:47 a.m. If I didn't shut this down, the alarm would arrive in what felt like 5 minutes. I shoved the chair aside, slid the accordion door an inch. Darkness filled the crack. No hallway light because there was no hallway. Only the mirror layout of room 26. Hello? The darkness breathed heat into my face, stuffy, like exhaled air. My finger groped the two-way bolt. Still vertical, locked. I closed the gap, rolled the chair back, tuned my exhaustion into anger, and buried my head under a pillow. I made it 10 minutes. Scrape. The chair skated an inch toward me. Pulled, not pushed. Tap, tap, tap on the wall. Higher this time, closer to the ceiling. Knock wasn't the right word. It sounded like bone-clicking masonry. I snapped on the bedside lamp. Plaster above the door flexed inward, bulging like a lung. Tiny puffs of dust sifted down. And then, in a low conversational tone that mimicked a neighbor calling through drywall, a voice cooed, "Map's nearly done." The blood left my arms. That was my own voice. Same pitch, same rasp of fatigue. The bulge withdrew. Silence reclaimed the plaster. A reasonable adult would evacuate. Instead, I pulled on jeans, grabbed my field flashlight, and yanked the main door open to march next door. Room 26's knob sat shiny and untouched. No do not disturb, no scuffs in the dust lining the sill. I knocked, real-world wood thuds. No answer. I pressed my ear. The room sounded like a coffin. Zero airflow, zero mechanical hum. The master pass key from reception weighed heavy in my pocket. Clerks leave them for survey crews in case we lock ourselves out. I told myself this was still rational. Document disturbance for a refund, rescue sleep. Key slid, lock turned. The door cracked open. Heat rolled out, 10 degrees warmer than the breezeway. A single lamp on the far nightstand glowed sickly orange. Sheets on the nearest bed lay folded hospital tight. The second bed remained turned down perfect. Empty closet. Bathroom door open, mirror reflecting only wall. But the adjoining door to my room stood wide. My chair now rested inside room 26, jammed against my side of the frame as though bracing the opening from that direction. Dust footprints. Bare, toe heavy like an eager child. Tracked from the adjoining doorway across the carpet, ending at the far lamp. The lamp's on switch dangled, broken from its stem, yet the bulb burned. I backed out, locked up, returned to room 27. My adjoining door was still closed, bolt vertical. Chair missing, of course, retrieved by whatever had borrowed my voice. I wedged the writing desk across the accordion folds, stacked suitcase on desktop, added cooler filter grate for noise alarm. Sleep now impossible. I opened the laptop to jot a report. Screen booted to last night's topographic file, red scribbles marking fault lines. The map sprouted a new annotation I didn't create. You missed a line curling along the canyon ravine. Laptop disconnected from Wi-Fi. No one could remote in. I closed the lid. Floorboards, no, the carpet beneath them, vibrated like distant machinery. From the ceiling corner came soft scratching, like graphite sketching circles. Dust rained whisper light onto the dresser. I climbed the bed, shone flashlight upward. The popcorn texture had been disturbed, scratches forming a spiral about a foot across. At its center, a fingertip emerged. No arm, just a single finger of bone-pale skin, poking through as though the attic were thinning. It tapped twice, gently considerate. Instinct tore me backward. The fingertip withdrew. Spiral scratches stopped. The surveyor in me wanted a sample. The mammal in me wanted a border wall. Mammal won. I shoved belongings into my duffel, glanced at the clock, 3:06 a.m. If I left now, I could clear Kayenta before dawn. I slung the duffel, killed the light, lifted suitcase from the barricade. Knock. Loud enough to rattle the light bulb. Not from the door, this time from inside the dresser drawers. Wood joints groaned. Top drawer slid out an inch. The air smelled of cedar again, edged with hot metal tang like microwaved pennies. Drawer jerked open another inch. In the gap, I glimpsed map pages, copies of mine, folded tight, covered in ash-gray fingerprints. The pages fluttered, though no air moved. On their surface, my own handwriting scrawled backward, letters racing right to left. Finish the fault. Snap decision, abandon everything. Grab keys, exit. Main door unlatched, hallway black except exit sign bleeding red. I didn't bother with checkout. Down the stairs, across the lot, into the rental. Engine sputtered. Cold desert nights treat fuel injectors mean. But started. I pulled onto Highway 160. In the rearview mirror, Roadrunner Lodge kept its lights off. Yet every second-floor window glowed faint amber, each with a silhouette staring out. Some tall, some bent, their edges fuzzy like heat mirage. None waved. 30 miles east, dawn bled pink. I eased at scenic turnout, cracked thermos coffee, tried rationalization. Maybe carbon monoxide leakage from swamp cooler? But carbon monoxide doesn't write notes in reversed script. Cell signal returned. I scrolled Kayenta Lodge reviews. One from last month. Room 27, strange knocks. Heard my own voice asking if I'd forgotten something. Checked out early. Another from 2 years ago. Different username. Room 26. Voices through unlocked door. Dreamt I was scribbling maps. 10 reviews in as many years echoed the complaint. The motel changed owners 4 times. Yet rooms 26 and 27 never got renovations. That afternoon, the deadline ulcer won. I opened the laptop at a campground. The rogue annotation still skirted the canyon. Against pride, I ran calcs. Turned out the line predicted a hidden fault scarp my LIDAR pass had missed. A perfect fit. I added it. Saved. The screen blinked once, almost a nod. Cedar scent drifted under the tent flap, though no trees grew for miles. I'll pass Kayenta on the drive back next week. Room 27 will probably be vacant, and I'm almost curious what the ceiling spiral looks like by daylight. But I'll keep driving, because maps can't afford gratitude. And when a wall knocks gently in your own voice, you either finish the line it points at, or you never lay pencil to paper again. My name is Daniel Begay, and 2 summers ago I swore I'd never guide another after-hours hike to Spider Rock. The canyon still sends tourists my way, but I hand them off to the new rangers and drive home before sunset, because the last time I lingered, the canyon told me goodbye in my own voice, and almost meant it. I'd spent the day herding a busload of geology students along the rim trails, pointing out Permian crossbedding and ancient footpaths. By 5:30, they were gone. The visitor center lot empty, except for one dusty rental Jeep and its single passenger. Clarissa Barrett, doctoral candidate in cultural anthropology and, apparently, a professional procrastinator. She waived a permit that expired at midnight. I need a twilight view of Spider Rock for my thesis photos. Just 30 minutes at the overlook. The light, the alignment with Venus. Tonight is my only shot. A storm of sandstone dust swirled up the road behind the Jeep. The park gate would close in an hour. No ranger wanted overtime. Clarissa's eyes were so earnest, and I'd never lost anyone. So I threw my pack in her trunk and told myself one last tour wouldn't hurt. We reached the head of White House Trail as the sun dropped into haze. Clarissa balanced her tripod on one shoulder, zigzagging down switchbacks while sketching cliff lines in a leather notebook. I kept pace, reciting the usual cautions. Watch for scree, stay hydrating, no stones thrown over rims. There are people and spirits down there. Halfway down, the wind shifted from west to north, and the desert smelled like rain-wet copper. Clarissa inhaled sharply. "Smells electric," she whispered. I nodded. Copper in the air often means lightning is hunting ground. By the time we reached the canyon floor, dusk had painted the twin spires of Spider Rock in bruised violet. Clarissa rushed ahead, camera clicking. I hung back at the base of a cottonwood whose trunk bore a blackened lightning scar. My grandmother calls that kind of tree Nazkadi, split on one side but still alive. A spirit doorway. I touched the bark anyway, more habit than prayer. Clarissa positioned herself on a sandstone slab and asked me to stand 10 feet behind her, just to give scale. The first shot took, the second misfired with a jagged burst of white across the viewfinder. Clarissa cursed and fiddled with the lens. I heard my own voice chuckle behind me. "Easy there, Dan. No hurry." I spun. No one stood on the ledge. Clarissa frowned. "Did you say something?" I shook my head. Already the canyon air felt too still. Sound carried too clearly in stillness. We packed up the tripod. Clarissa glanced longingly at the stars, 5, then 50, then 1,000 freckles across an obsidian sky. "We should head back," I said. She nodded, but her eyes lingered on the spires. 1 minute more. She stepped away, scribbling notes. I knelt to cinch my bootlace, then heard myself again, farther up canyon now, softer, as though I'd walked ahead without my body. "Clarissa, this way. Faster path." She looked up, confused. "You already started back." I felt every hair rise. "I'm right here." The night swallowed our breath. Cottonwood leaves froze mid-rustle. The cricket wall of sound collapsed into silence. From the canyon bend came my voice a third time, perfectly calm. "Goodbye, Dan." Clarissa's camera strap squeaked against her jacket as she pivoted. "Why would you say goodbye?" "That wasn't me." Lightning flickered, white without thunder, illuminating Spider Rock in negative. A silhouette crouched on a sandstone shelf 15 yards ahead, my exact height and outline, elbows resting on knees like I do when scanning trails. When the after image faded, the shelf was empty. Clarissa whispered, "You hired an actor, right?" I grabbed her elbow and started brisk walking. "Stay behind me. No matter what you hear, do not answer." The moon had barely risen, a sliver too thin to help. I kept my flashlight low to preserve night vision. Boots crunched in rhythm. Ours, and then a third set matching stride. Somewhere above, on the switchback we hadn't reached yet, gravel shifted in equal measure. "Coyotes follow people too," Clarissa offered, voice brittle. "Coyotes don't copy footfalls," I said. The canyon inhaled. Far off, rockfall rattled. A dozen small stones tumbling, then stopping mid-clatter as though caught mid-air. My duplicate voice called again. Closer. "Stride shorter, she's tired." Clarissa's breath hitched. She squeezed my pack strap so hard my collarbone ached. I whispered the only protection prayer I half remembered from childhood. "Ahu omwe niha shikadiu." Let moonlight dress us in ash. The path narrowed at a point locals call the Sister's Elbow. I knew a side drainage there, steep, hard to climb, but shorter. As we turned into the cut, Clarissa tripped on a root and fell. The camera skidded into darkness. She whimpered, "My research." "Leave it," I said. But she crawled for the strap. I dug my heel in to pivot back and met myself face to face. Or rather, my own unmistakable silhouette blocking the drainage mouth. Only the eyes were wrong. Moon white, rimmed in yellow fire. The double cocked its head, its jaw unhinged slightly wider than human. And in a gravel and honey copy of my cadence, it said, "Farewell, Daniel. They need you on the other side of the rock." Lightning strobed again. For a split second, the thing's legs bent backwards at the knee, hands lengthened into claws darker than the night around them. The flash died. When vision cleared, the path was clear. Clarissa had the camera back. She pointed beyond me. "Is it gone?" "Moving pipes," I lied. "Keep climbing." We scrambled switchbacks. Each bend cut a sharper grade. Each echo of our boots came back double. Twice my voice shouted from behind a boulder, "Wrong turn." I ignored it. After the third taunt, Clarissa's voice mimicked mine in a panic. "Help me." Except Clarissa was ahead of me and silent. On the final rise before the rim lot, a juniper branch snapped. Something stepped onto the trail so close, I smelled dust and raw hide. Clarissa screamed. My flashlight beam caught rag-stitched skin stretched across shifting ribs. The light flared, then guttered as batteries died. I grabbed Clarissa's sleeve and shoved her onward. A hot gust slammed our backs. Claws raked stone inches from my boot. The visitor center floodlight, set to motion sensor, blazed awake at the parking lot lip. The creature halted where darkness ended, pacing left and right like a frenzied dog chained to shadow. Clarissa collapsed on pavement. I yanked the Jeep keys from her pocket, hit unlock, dragged her inside. Headlamps lit the trail. The creature retreated behind a piñon, eyes glowing, still speaking in my voice too quietly for words. Rangers chalked the incident up to dehydration hallucination, faulty equipment, cultural suggestion. Clarissa's camera card showed every still except the last two. Those contained only static and a timestamp 1 hour in the future. I resigned the next day. Clarissa emailed once to ask if I'd ever been farther than the canyon the voice described. The other side of the rock. I deleted the message. Last week, at 3:03 a.m., my phone chimed. One new voicemail. Playback revealed my voice, strained, wind over the mic, whispering, "Farewell, Daniel. Trail's waiting." The timestamp says it was recorded tomorrow night. I blocked the number, crushed the SIM, and still the canyon's breath seems to rattle at my bedroom door. If you walk Spider Rock at twilight and you hear your own farewell before you speak it, do not answer. The canyon is only practicing your goodbye.